Have you ever felt like people around you are playing roles, like actors on a stage, showing one version of themselves to the world, but hiding their true feelings and thoughts behind a mask? It's a common experience. So many people go through life pretending, projecting an image that doesn't reflect who they really are. But if you know how to look carefully, if you can truly pay attention to the small details, the things most people miss, you can start to see through those masks. You'll notice that it's not just about what people say, it's about how they say it. It's the pauses between their words, the shift in their body language, the little gestures that give them away. And once you learn to pick up on these subtle cues, you'll begin to see people for who they really are, beyond the facade they show the world. In this video, we're going to explore some powerful techniques rooted in Stoic philosophy that will help you read people on a deeper level, often without them even realizing it. The key is not to judge, not to try and control, but to understand. Stoicism teaches us to be calm observers of the world, to notice things without getting caught up in them emotionally. With this approach, you can build stronger connections with people, understand their true motivations, and navigate social situations with much more wisdom and insight. Let's start with one of the simplest yet most effective techniques you can use in conversations, the tell me more technique. This is such a straightforward method that most people overlook its power, but once you understand how to use it, it can feel like a superpower. It's almost like you have the ability to unlock someone's thoughts and emotions without them even knowing it. Here's how it works. When someone is talking to you, especially when they're passionate about something or defending their point of view, don't interrupt. Don't jump in with your own thoughts or try to argue. Instead, just sit back, remain calm, and say, "Tell me more." It sounds simple, but those 3 words can open the door to a much deeper conversation. I first discovered this technique during a debate with a friend about something as trivial as pineapple on pizza. We were both getting ready to argue our sides, but instead of jumping into the debate, I just smiled and said, "Tell me more." What started as a simple conversation about pizza quickly became a deep discussion about my friend's childhood, family traditions, and even personal dislikes that went far beyond food. Those 3 little words created space for him to open up in ways I hadn't expected. When people feel truly listened to, they let their guard down. They no longer feel the need to defend themselves, and that's when they start sharing things they didn't plan to share. Their fears, their insecurities, their motivations, it all comes to the surface because you've made them feel safe enough to open up. This technique isn't about manipulation or trying to get someone to spill their secrets. It's about creating a space where they feel comfortable being themselves. Stoicism teaches us to observe without judgment, to remain calm and detached. The tell me more technique is a perfect example of this. You're not trying to control the conversation or push your own agenda, you're simply listening and understanding. And in doing so, you can learn so much more about the person in front of you. In a world where most people are quick to speak, but slow to listen, asking someone to tell me more is a gift. You're showing them that you're genuinely interested in their perspective, that you're not just waiting for your turn to talk. This builds trust, and when people trust you, they reveal more about themselves, sometimes more than they even realize. The next technique is one of the most telling ways to understand someone's true character. It's not just about how they treat you. It's about how they treat people who have less power or status than they do. If you really want to know who someone is at their core, pay close attention to how they interact with people they consider beneath them. It could be a waiter at a restaurant, a cashier at the store, or a colleague who's lower on the corporate ladder. How someone treats these people tells you far more about their character than how they treat those who can do something for them. I learned this lesson the hard way. I once worked with someone who seemed like the nicest person, always respectful, always polite in meetings. On the surface, they seemed like a genuinely good person. But then one day, we went out to lunch, and I saw a completely different side of them. The moment we sat down, they treated the waiter with such disrespect, barking orders and acting like they were above everyone else. It was shocking to see how quickly they switched from being friendly to being dismissive and arrogant, just because they thought they were dealing with someone in a lesser position. That experience taught me a valuable lesson. People show their true nature when they think they don't have to impress anyone. When there's nothing at stake, that's when you see who they really are. And this is a key insight from Stoicism. True virtue is revealed not when you're trying to gain something or impress someone, but when there's no benefit to being kind or respectful. Stoicism teaches us to treat everyone with the same level of respect, regardless of their status or position. It reminds us that everyone, no matter their role, deserves to be treated with dignity. When you observe how someone treats others in these situations, you'll get a glimpse into their true character. If they're kind and respectful to everyone, regardless of status, that's a sign of a strong, secure individual. But if they're only nice when it benefits them, if they're rude or dismissive to those they see as less important, that's a red flag you shouldn't ignore. Another key to understanding people is realizing that their past plays a significant role in shaping who they are today. Many people like to think that the past is behind them, that they've moved on and left it behind. But the truth is, we all carry our past with us. Our experiences, our traumas, and our victories all influence how we think, how we react, and how we treat others in the present. I had a friend who was always defensive. No matter what the situation was, they would react with anger or suspicion. At first, I thought that's just who they were, someone who was naturally on edge. But as I got to know them better, I learned more about their past. They had been betrayed by people they trusted, had gone through financial hardships, and grew up in an environment where they always had to prove themselves. Once I understood their past, their behavior in the present made a lot more sense. Stoicism teaches us to observe without judgment. When you understand someone's past, you can see why they act the way they do in the present. People often aren't reacting to the moment. They're reacting to echoes of their past. Their fears, their insecurities, their need for control, it all stems from experiences they've been through. This doesn't mean you have to accept bad behavior, but it does mean you can approach people with more empathy. When you understand that someone's actions are shaped by their past, you can deal with difficult situations with more wisdom and compassion. You'll start to see the patterns they're stuck in, even when they can't see it themselves. And here's an even deeper insight from Stoicism. By understanding someone's past, you can sometimes help them break free from those patterns. If you're able to gently point out the cycles they're repeating, you might help them become more self-aware, which can lead to personal growth. Stoicism emphasizes self-reflection and improvement, and sometimes understanding someone's past allows you to guide them toward bettering themselves. One of the easiest ways to tell if someone is hiding something or even lying is by listening to their tone of voice. While people can control what they say, it's much harder for them to control how they say it. When someone is confident and comfortable, their tone is steady, their words flow naturally. But when they're uncertain or trying to hide something, their voice betrays them. Sometimes it's a slight hesitation. Other times it might be a sudden shift in pitch, where their voice becomes higher or more forced. These subtle changes in tone can reveal a lot about what's going on beneath the surface. I once had a colleague who was always smooth-talking, always knew exactly what to say in meetings. But one day, when we were discussing a project, I noticed something different. His usual confident tone shifted. He started speaking more slowly. His voice wasn't as strong, and he seemed to be choosing his words more carefully. That's when I knew something was off. It turned out he hadn't made any progress on the project and was trying to cover it up. That shift in tone was his subconscious giving him away. This is where Stoic observation comes in. By paying attention to these small shifts in someone's tone, you can pick up on hidden feelings, whether it's hesitation, uncertainty, or even dishonesty. And this doesn't just apply to catching lies. It can also help you understand when someone is uncomfortable or unsure of themselves. Stoicism teaches us to observe carefully and without judgment, and tone shifts are one of the most reliable signs that there's more going on than meets the eye. If you want to know someone's true character, watch them when they think no one is paying attention. People often behave differently when they're in the spotlight, when they know they're being observed. They're on their best behavior, putting on a performance to fit into society or to gain approval. But when they think no one's watching, their real selves come out. I once had a manager who was always polite and professional when the boss was around. She would make friendly small talk, maintain a calm demeanor, and never raise her voice. But the moment the higher-ups left the office, she became a completely different person. She would snap at the team, make rude remarks, and treat people with no respect. It was like night and day. That's when I realized that her public persona was just an act. Her true self came out when she thought no one important was paying attention. This is a key teaching of Stoicism. True virtue isn't about how we act when people are watching. It's about how we behave when no one is looking. The person who remains kind, respectful, and patient, even when there's no one around to praise them, that's someone who lives in alignment with Stoic values. If you want to see someone's real character, don't focus on their grand gestures or public persona. Pay attention to what they do in those quiet moments when they think no one is watching. That's when the mask drops and their true self is revealed. If you want to understand what truly matters to someone, watch how they react emotionally in different situations. Emotional reactions are like windows into a person's soul. They reveal their priorities, their values, and the things they hold most dear. Here's why. People might try to hide what matters to them with words, but their emotions will always give them away. When someone reacts strongly, whether it's anger, excitement, or frustration, it's a clear sign that the situation touches on something deeply important to them. I remember working with a colleague who was usually very calm and composed. Nothing seemed to rattle him. But one day, during a routine meeting, someone suggested a small change to one of his projects, and he blew up. His emotional reaction was completely out of proportion to the situation, and that's when I realized that this project wasn't just another task for him. It was personal. His outburst revealed how much that project meant to him, even though he had never said so directly. This is the power of observing emotional reactions. When someone has a strong emotional response to something, it's because it touches on a core value or priority. Whether it's anger, frustration, or even excitement, these reactions are like clues that tell you what truly matters to them. For example, the boss who reacts angrily when you question his decision, it's not just about protecting his authority. It's because his sense of self-worth is tied to always being right. The friend who gets overly defensive when you point out something small, that's probably because you've touched on a deep insecurity they have. Stoicism teaches us to observe these emotional reactions without getting swept up in them. When you notice someone's emotions flaring up, it's a signal that something important is at stake for them. This doesn't just apply to negative emotions like anger or frustration, though those are often the most obvious. Positive emotions like excitement and joy can be just as revealing. If someone lights up when talking about their side project or hobby, that's a clear sign that it's something they value deeply. Even if they never say it out loud, their emotional reaction tells you what's really important to them. In relationships, this is especially powerful. If you're dating someone and they get upset when plans fall through, it's not just about the change in plans. It's a sign that spending time together is incredibly important to them. If they light up when you talk about future trips or activities, that tells you they value creating shared experiences. By observing these emotional cues, you can gain a much deeper understanding of what matters most to the people around you.